Hey, it's Kathy, the vegan prepper here in my backyard garden, getting ready to show you a quick tour of our transitioning summer into fall garden, showing you what do we have planted, kind of explain a few of the little plans that we have moving forward. I'm not 100% done with all of my planning yet because October really is the very beginning of our huge planting season here in the Central Valley in Arizona where I live. But we did have a really productive summer, and I'm definitely going to be posting more videos to help with gardening here in the summer, but that's not this video. That's just so y'all know. Look out for it. It might be coming soon, hopefully, because there's actually a lot of stuff that I should be filming right now for that. But anyway, I'm not going to get off track. We're going to do a tour of the yard, discuss it. There was a lot of stuff that worked, a lot of stuff that didn't work, and hopefully you enjoy this kind of snippet of our lives here at the Vegan Prepper YouTube channel. So here we go. All right, I'm starting us over here outside of the beds with our little grapevines, which did definitely struggle this year, but they also grew more than they ever have before because this is the first year we got these trellises installed, and I'm really looking forward to being able to, in the coming season, trim them back, amend their soil, train them up the trellises, and get ourselves really good harvest of grapes. We did get a small harvest of grapes this year, and they were like delicious and sweet. I couldn't believe how good they were off of these vines. So I'm really excited about pouring some energy into that. So this fall and winter, we're definitely going to be doing some work in the soil right here and doing everything we can to research and learn about how to make these a big producer in our yard of grapes and not just the leaves, which I also pick and turn into herbal teas and vinegars because they have been shown to be particularly effective to help with circulation, and the vinegars of grape leaves can be applied externally for help with varicose veins and other things like that, like bruising and stuff like that. So anyway, that's a little tip. So you don't necessarily have to only use grapes from your grapevines. You can also utilize those leaves. So do some research and look into that for yourself. And then over here we have got our Mexican blue elderberry, which always starts looking really sad during summer, but it's already perking up and coming back. So that's exciting. Once it starts getting a lot more green, I'll come in and trim it again to make it branch out even more. And then those trimmings I will propagate because I have a lot of success just taking the sticks and putting them in the ground and ending up with brand new elderberry plants. And I have several friends locally who have already said they want elderberry bushes. So I'm going to be working on that this fall and winter and hopefully get to share some of the love with some of my local friends. Over here we have the somewhat failed corn experiment. It was my first time growing corn. So it said when I did all of my research that it's very important for it to be kept evenly moist. I obviously did not keep the ground moist enough. This is actually the part of the yard that gets more sun than any other. So this bed gets beaten down and it's very harsh over here. So I'm definitely going to try growing corn again, but in a different spot where it will be a little bit, better conditions, but then also I am not, I will plant it if we do get a drip system in place. If we don't have a drip system in place coming into the next season, I will not be attempting corn, not until I have that in place, so that it will be a lot easier to make sure that I'm getting an even moisture in the soil, even watering. They did actually fertilize themselves very well. So from the ears that I have picked, I've opened them up and seen they're very tiny, tiny, tiny little kernels. But they were fertilized very well. There were no empty spots on the ears. It just wasn't a very good crop. Like, they didn't grow very much. They're very skinny, and like the kernels themselves are not usable really. So that was kind of a learning thing. I had a major learning curve here, so we're getting ready to clear this bed out for sure and plant some more things in here, probably some more greens. and calendula, if it doesn't come up by itself, which it probably will. But also what's really exciting is during the summer, over the summer, my ginger survived. So this right here is a little sign of some ginger, and there's nice big roots. Over here is another one right here. And so once all this stuff is cleared out, I think the ginger, there's some more over here too. The ginger is really going to take off, and I am very excited about getting all that ginger. Super excited that it survived. Very grateful for that. We have our moringas, which are wonderful, and then relatively soon it will be time to trim this one again and this one. So this one has been around now for about 3 or 4 years. Look how huge it is. They grow very fast. It's at least 15 feet tall, if not more. Gosh, maybe even more, like 20 feet. And you can see this one has only ever been trimmed once in its life. And so I come back and I cut them off at a certain point. So here is the cutoff point right there. They were just a single stick. They get cut, then they branch. So there's 2 of them here actually right now. And they've branched one time. So you come back and cut all those branches back, and then they'll branch again, and eventually you start getting like an actual tree shape. But really, they will grow super tall and just never really branch unless you keep trimming them. So I'll definitely have a video on that. There's not many videos out on how to care for moringa. I have kind of had to just become my own expert on moringa. I've had to become my own expert on summer growing here. So from what I've learned, I'm very happy to share all of that. It's the kind of information I really wish I had when I first began doing all of this stuff. So anyway, over here is the little elderberry last year, where I did discover that I could propagate the elderberry, and so that's exciting. Here's our little blood orange tree. And we have yet to get any blood oranges out of it, but it's actually looking really great this year. There was touch and go for a while there. I didn't think it was going to last. So I definitely have to do a lot more research on citrus care and figure out how to trim it. But for the most part, I'm leaving it like this because, especially here, citrus trees, from what I have read, they have a tendency to want to kind of grow down, and they become their own shade. And we have a tendency to want to lollipop trees. Like, we want to lollipop every tree. Like, I guess with my moringa, I kind of want to lollipop it, but that's because otherwise it would just be a stick. So with citrus, a lot of times it's actually better to let it have some shade. So anyway, I'm definitely not an expert on that. I can't speak to that yet, so I won't speak to it too much, but I'm doing a lot more research. I'm excited. Oh my gosh. Hello. I wonder if one of my friends moved, because I have a giant praying mantis in my rosemary, but I wonder if he moved because he was sick of getting watered. I don't know if you can see him right there. I don't think it's focusing on him. Probably because he's like, leave me alone. But yeah, there's a big praying mantis right there. Look, I didn't cover you with water if you're the same guy. Sorry. But now I'm really curious if my praying mantis is still over here in this one, because I've got praying. Oh, for the love of Pete. Yes, it is. Oh my gosh, it is. So we have another giant friend over there. So there's that one. Oh, it startled me. See, now I really wish I had like video editing capabilities, but I don't. So you guys just get the raw, uncut version. Okay. So here is the yard with the beds. So yeah, we covered everything that's out of the beds, at least in the backyard. So here we have 8 garden beds now set up. So it was 6, and now we have 2 very brand new ones right here. And then one of the things that we do, especially now that we have so many beds, to help keep it straight, and when we're talking about them, we have numbered these beds. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So when I'm inside and I say, hey, hun, there was an issue I saw in bed number 2 or whatever, he knows exactly, like, he knows I'm talking about that one over there. So when he comes out to look, he can see it. And things like that. Like, we'll we'll talk about what we see in these beds. And it's a really easy way of keeping stuff straight. Sorry, praying mantis. That's what, like, they get back at me. They scare me. Oh man. Oh man. It's so funny. Actually, that little guy, he acts like a cat almost. If I accidentally get water on him, I try so hard not to get water on him. With his little folded front paws, like wiping his face. He looks almost like a cat. It's really cute. Anyway. All right, I digress. Let's talk about bed number 1 and stop talking about the praying mantises. But now I'm terrified. There's praying mantises everywhere, and I'm gonna like get startled again. Anyway, I've got 2 rosemary bushes down here, like little tiny rosemary plants, and a sage in this little channel in front of the bed. So those little rosemary bushes were even smaller than they are now, just like these. They were little 4-inch plants when I first bought them like a couple years ago. And now these have grown up. They've become the main shade for this bed, which tends to do the best in almost any circumstance just because of the fact that it has this shade, which is on the west side of the yard. So then it's protected from the harshest part of the afternoon heat. So with all of these beds for a lot of the year, my thoughts are about protecting them from the afternoon heat on the west side. So that's why you see extra growing channels on the west side of most of these beds. These 2 end up being in shade for most of the day from the house. So I'm probably not going to focus too hard on that over here, but it may end up being something that I end up doing if I start noticing that it needs it. That's another part of the reason that we've done wood chipping on the ground here. And we haven't gone over here yet because, again, this is so brand new that we just haven't come over here yet with it. And actually, this is pretty brand new because the clay soil that we have here, it radiates heat like you would not believe. So it's just another source. I don't know, I feel like it's even as hot as the asphalt, I swear. It is so hot. So this, covering it with the wood chipping, it's amazing how much it helps reduce the ambient temperature that is surrounding these beds. And so like everything that I'm doing out here is to help try to conserve water, help try to protect from the excess heat and the sun, and all of that is, again, about the water. I live right by an airport, and the eventual plan, which I know we don't, gosh, I should be getting focused on the beds, but the eventual plan now is to either attach something to the house or just have a freestanding thing. I can't decide, something that can be used and then like attached and then detached, so that in summer I kind of want to have shade cloth coming over like all the way over there, so that we have an even, another layer of shade, which again cuts back on water usage. It's better for the plants and all of that, even though there's plenty of plants that do just fine without any of that fancy stuff. Jamaican sorrel being one of them. I'll talk about that in a bit. And so that's my plan for that. Plans for this fall and winter and spring are to hopefully get rid of these rocks finally. Please, I hope, because this is just such a waste of space in my mind. I want to grow far more things and I want to expand, which is another reason we've just got to get a drip system out here, because it's becoming too much for me to have to do every single day, sometimes twice a day in the absolute hottest part of the summer. And then over there, because we've already got this little divot right there, there's part of me that is now percolating the idea of putting in a little pond. And I've wanted a pond for a really long time. I'm thinking about putting it there. I don't know all of the logistics yet, so that is definitely on my radar. Clear the rocks, expand the planting space, and create a pond is my next giant steps. But for now, anyway, they do so much. There's so much benefit to wildlife creating a pond and a water source, especially here. It draws in beneficial insects and other beneficial creatures, and I really want a pond. So there is bed number 1, finally, with 8 sweet potato plants. Some of them are purple striped Japanese sweet potatoes, which I got from rareseeds.com as live plants. And then some of them are just supermarket sweet potatoes, which I had sitting on my counter too long. And then there was slips coming off of them. And I was like, well, let me just try rooting these and see what happens. And basically the rest is history, I guess. This is what happens when you just try and see. So certainly not every single one of my experiments works, but like this worked. The elderberry stick thing worked. I have a new elderberry bush now, and all of that. So this used to have tomatoes in it. If you followed for any length of time or seen my Instagram, I used to have tomatoes that went all the way up to there. If we can keep tomatoes alive through the summer, we will get a pre-summer crop and then a fall crop. If you just cut the tomatoes back a little bit, you'll get a fall crop. But when my husband and my boys were out here doing a whole bunch of work, he thought they were all dead. And now I did have 2 that were legitimately dead. 2 of them did not survive the summer, but 4 of them did, and they were putting off a little bit of new growth, but they were still kind of pale and not perfect looking. He didn't understand. He chopped them down. So I lost all of my tomato plants, but it's okay because my main thing was trying to see if I could keep them alive, and I did. So I'm so happy about that. And I know that this was a huge help. I planted sweet potatoes in part because they go fine with tomatoes. They don't really compete for resources, and they don't compete for space, because the tomatoes really grow up and the sweet potatoes are in the ground. And it's a ground cover that shaded and brought coolness to the roots of the sweet potatoes, or the sweet potatoes brought coolness to the roots of the tomatoes. And I know that they are a large part of why the tomatoes ended up surviving, even in like this full sun craziness that we had going on here, especially with the hottest summer we have ever had on record. And I am excited to think that I will be able to do that again next year. So I'm going to definitely expand the scale, and looking forward to some great things. All right, bed number 2. We have this channel here, which was planted with sunflowers. We've got one left that isn't quite ready yet over here. Here's my loofah, which I'm still debating leaving or cutting out. They do far better when they are trellised. Life happened. I never got out here to trellis them. So they are currently on the ground. They've got buds. It is possible I will still end up with some loofah this year, so I'm going to leave it. For now, we've got some nasturtium and cabbage planted here, which hasn't come up yet, but that is the fall cropping that's going to be happening right here. Bed number 3 has my purple Molokai sweet potatoes. I got 6 plants from rareseeds.com. One of them died, which was right here, and I haven't entirely planned yet which one or what I'm going to put here instead, but I will put something here instead. But yeah, that sort of remains to be seen. But for now, we hopefully will have a giant winter crop of sweet potatoes between this bed and that bed. I'm trying to focus quite a lot on plants that are going to give me a large yield, which I can and dehydrate and really use to add to our pantry. Here's an exciting thing, a little kale, which popped up because I had another kale here that went to seed. And so it's growing, even though it was too early for kale. This obviously started a while ago, and it was definitely too early for it, but it came right up. And I'm sure that, again, the shade of the sweet potatoes had something to do with that. And then there was a whole bunch of soybeans in this bed, and soybeans in bed number 2 as well, which we only just recently cut back, which also added the shade. So it ends up creating like a little microclimate where things can kind of grow a little bit out of season, and it ends up being, really beneficial. So yeah, there's that. Really excited for the sweet potatoes. They are yummy. The last time I grew them, oh man, I loved them because they're not super sweet. We're not huge fans of the super sweet flavor sweet potatoes, and those purple ones are great because yeah, they don't have that overtly sweet potato taste. So we really like them. Okay, now here's bed number 4. And so this growing channel right here has a whole bunch of garlic chives, and there's another one in bed number 5. And what's funny is these garlic chives were one single plant that I bought at the same time as I bought these rosemary, and I've just split it. There was one time I thought it died back, and I had like maybe a few little like single pieces. It wasn't even like a whole bush of chives, and they were chopped back to like only 1 inch, and I thought, well, maybe they'll be fine. So I stuck them in the ground, and now I have like 7 big chive plants, which I probably could go ahead and try to split down and see if I could get even more. So that's another one of those, yay, the hey, let's just see what happens thing kind of working out for me. So here's our gorgeous Jamaican sorrel. If you like hibiscus tea, this is the plant it comes from. It puts off gorgeous flowers, which are not out right now because they're more of a morning thing. And actually it looks like some of the flowers are already getting ready to kind of die back and give us a gorgeous calyx. And that's the part of the plant that ends up getting harvested as like a fruit that you can turn into your hibiscus tea and then make a gorgeous red drink. It's called sorrel in Jamaica. And this grows really well here. It's cultivated. I actually just did a whole post on Instagram about it. So go check my Instagram if you want to see, a whole bunch of information about Jamaican sorrel. So we have caged them because every year I lose a whole bunch of calyxes to mold because I'm still watering from overhead. And so now with the cages, keeping the branches off the ground, I'm able to aim the water at the base. And then I think hopefully it's going to end up doing better. So we'll see. This is a thought, like it's a test. We're going to see what happens. Okay. And so a lot of the branches got pulled down as well because I grew cantaloupe and watermelon here at the same time. And a lot of those tendrils of the vines reached out and were pulling these branches down. So they are not normally something that drags the ground, but anyway, even still, having them kind of more contained is going to hopefully help that situation. Here is a kale, which we cut back probably in March or April at the base. And then this is almost like that red Russian kale over in the other bed. It has just begun to come back on its own. Kale is a biennial, which means that it lives for 2 years. So it is just coming back into its second year. And I'm super grateful about that. All of our transplanted bok choy seedlings are alive and well. And then we still have a few more spaces, which I'm deciding what I'm going to be doing with. So many possibilities. Here's bed number 5. We have one more Jamaican sorrel. There were 2, but when I was thinning the soybean plants, I accidentally yanked up the other Jamaican sorrel plant at the same time. And when I put it back in the ground, it did not survive. So yep, one more sunflower, kind of waiting for it to dry to the point that we can get the seeds. Again, all the bok choy survived. There's plenty of space in this bed for me to make some decisions about what we're putting here in the fall. Definitely greens. I grow so many greens. Over there is kind of fun, an eggplant that we cut off at the base, and it's coming back too with flowers and everything. So we might end up with some eggplants. I don't know. I'll see if it does well. If not, I'll chop that back now too. But it's kind of like, why not? I guess just see if we'll keep getting eggplants. The jalapeno plants are still big and gorgeous. I need to do more research again about their longevity and what am I doing with these now? Because they're starting to put off gorgeous brand new flowers. And I feel like, well, if they're going to start putting off a whole bunch of more peppers, I'll just leave them. They don't take up that much room, at least not at the base. Oh, funny. Here's a soybean plant that I missed. All right, I guess we need to chop that out. And then there's sage down here. So I could plant plenty more kind of low-lying plants right here. Even lettuce, and fill in those gaps. And then here's my purslane, which I love. And I'm going to be taking the seed pods pretty soon, as soon as they mature, saving some of the seeds, but also scattering them elsewhere. This is a great plant. It just grew so beautifully in summer. No trouble whatsoever. And I didn't even plant it. It just showed up one day. And I was very grateful for it because I recognized it, because I know what it is. Bed number 6, this held mostly eggplant. And then these basils, these are the last 4 basil I have left. They've obviously bolted at this point. But the bees go crazy on these flowers, and they're still going crazy on these flowers. So I'm mainly leaving these here because the bees are still coming after these flowers. And I want them to continue to draw those pollinators in as the rest of the yard is getting planted with stuff that's going to need those pollinators, like my beans and things like that. I want them to be already I want my yard to already be like on their route to stop, and especially, yeah, the Jamaican sorrel, to get those pollinated and all of that. So in here now we have a whole bunch of carrot and beet seeds and a thyme plant, which is just the first one that I have planted. I don't know how big they get, but we'll see. I might need another one or two. I'm hoping to grow enough herbs that I don't have to buy any this year, at least my culinary herbs. So I'm going to be focusing a lot this fall and winter on harvesting these, and especially like rosemary, drying it and getting them ready to go in my pantry to use throughout the year. Here, I've mostly just been starting seeds, and I have my transplanting video. These guys are ready to transplant, these red Russian kale. And I have a lemon balm here, which everybody says you should not plant in a bed because it will take over the whole thing. I hope that that actually happens, because I want like kind of a ridiculous amount of lemon balm. Again, just so that I don't have to buy it. That's one of the herbs that we use the most in my house. It makes a yummy tea. I love it. And then other than that, I'm, again, just kind of not sure exactly yet what's happening right here. I'm still planning that out, but probably some more beans and almost certainly some greens, because there's just greens everywhere. And oh yeah, maybe broccoli, like some things that don't mind not being in sun, just like broccoli, carrots, beets, and things like that. There are certain plants that are really hungry for sun, at least, you know, once it gets more mild, and then certain ones that do actually almost better when they don't really get a lot of direct sun, and broccoli is definitely one of those plants. So in here is my bed where I've scattered a million herb seeds, hoping to get a huge array of herbs like yarrow and kind of more medicinal stuff. So I'm not entirely sure if that is what's going to happen. So far, it looks like the only things that have come up are cilantro and chives. But hopefully, you know, fingers crossed, we're going to start getting some more herbs, and I will see, hopefully, again, enough that will keep me from having to buy too much of it going into next year. I planted a mint here, same thing with the lemon balm. I hope it takes over the whole bed and I get a ridiculous amount of mint. That's my hope anyway. And then as it goes, those runners are actually so easy to take and then plant, and they'll grow themselves because that's like their job. They're already on the way to doing that. So that's another way that I can share plants. So I can share mint. I've shared mint before, and it just, yeah, grows so easily. And then here's 2 sticks. I accidentally cut off of the elderberry when I was weed whacking, so I just stuck them in the ground, and hopefully they will take and give me some new elderberry bushes. But yeah, so far, I guess so good. And like I said, it's kind of bare right now. It's not much growing out here, I guess, because it's just sort of the transition of seasons and then planning the next season, which is kind of a work in progress. But I am very excited for what these next few months hold. I mean, gardening here in the fall and winter is just a dream, really. It's just fantastic. So I hope that you enjoyed this tour. I had a really fun time filming this for you, and if you have any questions for me or anything like you need me to elaborate on any of the things that I have said, then go ahead and ask me down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Look at that gorgeous sun. Like I didn't plan that. It's just like, because I'm loved, you know. But anyway, yeah, so I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you get some information that you can use in your own garden, especially if you're trying to garden here. Definitely be looking more and more for this kind of content. I'm going to be sharing so much of my gardening content, especially what I've learned in my particular area. But yeah, I guess that is it. So as always, I hope the rest of your day is good and your life stays wonderful. Please like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.